What is up, everybody? Matt Moda here to give you some bangers for tomorrow's WNBA betting slate. So I'm recording this the night before, of course, but giving you plays for tomorrow. We're talking Tuesday, July 16th. The 4 games we have on tap for that WNBA betting slate. For this video, I'm going to have 2 official plays that I've already locked in, sent out to my Dub Club, and then I'm going to have 1 lean as well. That lean is probably going to end up becoming an official play. We just need to wait on odds. But I do have 2 official plays that I already locked in. Pretty good slate we have tomorrow. Before I get into that, I just want to do a recap from how the WNBA season has gone so far. And it's been okay. We're finally up on the year, up a little bit. And I'm not going to say a decent amount. We're up 2.5 units, as you can see on the screen here. Now, the last video I did that came out last week, that did really well. We went 3-0 on those WNBA picks. So hopefully we are getting in the midst of a hot streak. But that's kind of how the season has gone. Whenever we go on a hot streak, we have a video that goes 3-0. We have another video that goes 1-2. We just haven't been able to have consistent success. Hopefully that is starting after last week's video. The 3-0 is amazing. So again, let's hope we can continue that. If you are new to my channel, I would appreciate it if you could click that subscribe button. And then for this specific video, if you could comment, I would appreciate that as well. And then I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but I do have a Dub Club where I send all of my plays out for $5 a month. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Link is in the description of the video, as well as the pinned comment. But let's get into these official bangers. So I'm not going to have a play for all of the games tomorrow. My first official play is I'm taking the Sun +6. This is at -117 odds at Bet Rivers. Sun against the Liberty. So these 2 teams just played last week, and I was on the Liberty to cover the spread against the Sun. But for tomorrow's game, I'm backtracking on that. I'm not backtracking, I should say. I'm going on the opposite side of that. And I'm taking the Sun to cover the spread against the Liberty. So last week, I was on the Liberty, and they did cash out for me. This week, I'm taking the opposite. And in general, I should say, you should be a little bit careful with this WNBA betting slate tomorrow. It's a little bit of a weirder slate due to injuries, and we also don't know how teams are going to play it with the Olympics coming up. So just, like I said, just play it a little bit carefully. But for this game specifically, we do have pretty big injury news, with Breanna Stewart being listed as out for this game, according to RotoWire. Stewart's obviously a great player, one of the best players on the WNBA, probably the second or third best player, or first, depending on how you look at it, on the Liberty. So her being out is a pretty big loss. Honestly, I probably would have still been on the Sun, even if she was still playing the game. I would still like the Sun to keep it close. So her being out is just a bonus. And the Liberty, they've been a team, ton of talent on the Liberty. Really, really good individual players, and they have a good record. So I'm not saying that they've been disappointing. They've just been inconsistent. They have certain games where in certain times in the individual game, not even for full game stretches, but just for stretches in games, they just kind of don't show up. They're really, really inconsistent. They're like the best first quarter team in the WNBA and the worst second quarter team. It's like they can get up for these games when they first start, and then they kind of lose momentum in the second quarter, and then it's kind of touch and go from there. We also haven't really seen the Liberty play super great basketball recently. Now, to be clear, the Liberty playing not super great basketball is just a different scale. It's all relative. So them being fourth, being third is actually pretty bad for them because they've been first for most of the year in terms of like advanced stats and stuff like that. So I just want to make that clear. I also will admit that the Sun have not been playing great for a while now. They started off as one of the best teams in the WNBA. I think they were 12-0 to start the year, 13-0, something like that. They also haven't been playing as great recently. But the difference here is that the Liberty are still being priced like they're that team, while the Sun are not. And that's the biggest reason why I am on the Sun. Now, again, just to be clear, struggle for the Liberty is relative. They've still been good. They just haven't been as good. Like I said, there was a stretch where they had the best net rating in the WNBA. You look at the last 7 games, which is kind of the sample size that I like to look at for sports, because like what happened at the beginning of the year isn't always relative and relevant for what's happening now. And teams just go through slumps, highs and lows, all that stuff. So last 7 games, the Liberty have the 3rd best net rating in the WNBA. They're behind the Seattle Storm. They're behind the Las Vegas Aces. And in that stretch, they have the 4th best offense and the 3rd best defense. So that defense is actually better than I would have thought. But the 4th best offense is really, really disappointing. And that's not how the Liberty, if they win the championship, they're not going to win with the 4th best offense. They have to be the 1st or 2nd best offense in the WNBA. They spent much of the season as the best offense. Now the Aces have kind of taken that over from them over the past 5 to 7 games. And then from there, 4th ranked effective field goal percentage and 3rd ranked true shooting percentage. So 3rd, 4th ranked offense is a pretty fair grading for them. And it's not, again, not how they're going to win games. And being 3rd or 4th is much different from being 1st. And then you look at the Sun, they're not as good as the Liberty. That's not the argument here. They're slightly behind them. They're 4th in terms of net rating with the 5th ranked offense and the 5th ranked defense. Now the Sun defense being 5th is kind of crazy because at the beginning of the year, when they were the best team in the WNBA, they had the best defense by a mile. So like I said, they are also a team that has struggled. But like I said, the price is baking that in with the Sun, not so much with the Liberty. And another reason why I do like the Sun to cover the spread is just in general, this should be a really, really slow game, right? Both of these teams play at a very slow pace. Over the last 7 games, the Sun play at the slowest pace in the WNBA. The Sun do, with the Liberty at the 2nd slowest pace. Generally, games that are slower, I tend to not like bigger spreads. Now, 6 isn't a crazy spread. It's not 15 like the Aces are in a game that we'll talk about. But it is a decent spread. And less possessions, fewer possessions, slower pace means lower scoring and all that stuff, which generally means a closer game. That's not the biggest reason why I'm on the Sun, but generally, when there are 2 teams playing at a really slow pace, I tend to favor the underdog if it's a reasonable kind of larger spread, which is kind of the case here. I will say the under is also a great play here, but the total opened up at 156 and then immediately got steamed down to 153. So at that point, I just kind of held off on the total. If you wanted to lock it in, I do think the under is a really good play, but we're just rocking with the Sun spread. The bet here is not that I think the Sun are going to win outright or that they are the better team, just that I think they keep it close and that they cover the spread. That's our first of 2 official plays. Next up, I'm taking the Sky team total to go under 77.5. This is at -110 odds at ESPN Bet. Now, this was the game I was talking about with the crazy spread. I do like the Suns. I think they win by a lot, the Aces. I do like the Aces a lot. I think they win by a lot in this game. But the spread's at like 15 points, and the first half spread is at 10 points. And I just got too concerned with a backdoor cover. If anything, I would take the first half spread for the Aces as opposed to the full game. But I decided to make my official play the Sky team total going under 77.5, as I think this is a terrible, terrible matchup for their offense. And not even talking about the matchup, just in general. The Sky offense is dreadful. You look at the last 7 games, 3rd worst offensive net rating in the WNBA, 3rd worst, but even 3rd worst is selling them more than what they actually are. They have the worst effective field goal percentage and the worst true shooting percentage. Now, the reason why there is a difference there, why the effective field goal and true shooting have them as worse than just offensive net rating, is because those 2 stats, effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage, so effective field goal percentage, that weights 3-pointers more heavily than 2-pointers because 3 points is more than 2 points. A little math lesson for you guys there. And then true shooting takes into account more than just raw points. It takes into account field goal percentage, free throw percentage, and 3-point percentage as well. So both of these stats showing you that the Sky, or not showing you, telling you having the Sky as the worst in both of those stats, what they're telling you is that the Sky have horrible shooting. They can do a decent job scoring around the rim, but they are an abysmal shooting team across the board. They can't make 3-pointers, they can't make free throws, they can't make anything that is outside of the rim area. And if you play a team that allows a lot of points in the rim, at the restricted area, that's totally fine. That is not the Aces. And just to give you kind of some numbers to that, over the last 7 games, the Sky have attempted literally the most shot attempts in the restricted area in the WNBA, with the fewest above the break 3-pointers. The most at the rim, the least above the break. Unfortunately, that's a terrible matchup for the Aces. A terrible matchup, I should say, when you're going up against the Aces. It's a terrible matchup for the Sky offense specifically. The Aces, they're not the Lynx. They don't have the best defense in the WNBA. One thing that they do really, really well is they do not give anything up around the rim. Their whole defense is packing the paint and not letting shot attempts at the rim. They allow a lot in the paint, but non-restricted area. They don't do a great job guarding 3-pointers and specifically guarding above the break 3-pointers, but they don't allow anything at the rim. Over the last 7 games, the Aces have allowed the fewest attempts in the restricted area in the WNBA. According to Props Madness, they have the Aces the best defense in the restricted area in the WNBA. It's just a terrible matchup for the Sky. The Sky are an offense that have really bad, clunky, horrible spacing. All they can do is shoot around the rim. And as I mentioned, the Aces don't give up anything around the rim. Now, these two teams did play in June, and the Sky went over this number, but that was really before the Aces made the leap that they currently have made now. You look at the last 7 games, Aces have the second best defense in the WNBA, second lowest opponent effective field goal percentage as well. So I just have a hard time seeing the Sky score a lot of points here. So as opposed to playing the massive number, instead I'm just going to fade the Sky offense, take their team total under. But I do like the Aces. If you want to take their first half spread, I like that play as well. Now for the lean, what we're going to go with, my lean is Brittany Griner under 19.5 points. The reason why I'm leaving it as a lean is because as of the time of this recording, the only books that have prices for this are PrizePicks and Underdogs. It's the DFS books. My guess is as soon as the actual sports books price this play, they're going to price it at 19.5, and then we will lock it in. So if I decide to make it an official play, I will post it to both my Dub Club and my Twitter. So check those out if you want to know whether this becomes an official play. But I really, really like her going under her point prop, assuming that it doesn't open at like 17, 16.5, something like that. I'll probably play it to 18.5 and below. It's just a really, really tough matchup for Brittany Griner. She likes to score posting up. She likes to score close as possible to the rim. The Mystics, they do a great job defending the rim. They're not quite as good at it as the Aces, but they do a really good job around the basket. And to put that into context for you, Brittany Griner scores the majority of her points, 40% almost of her points come via post-ups. The Mystics literally have the best post defense in the WNBA. According to Props Madness, the Mystics have allowed the fewest points in the WNBA via post-ups. Now you look into like their shot charts and stuff, all that stuff makes sense. When you want to dig into infrequently they allow shots close to the basket. They have literally allowed the fewest attempts less than 5 feet from the basket. That's on the entire season. Same is true within the last 7 games. You want to isolate it by zones. Over the last 7 games, they are giving up 16.1 shot attempts in the restricted area. That would be the second lowest in the WNBA. In terms of the area right outside of that, in the paint but non-restricted area, they are allowing 13.9 attempts per game, which is the 4th lowest in the WNBA. And then even mid-range. Griner is a decent shooter in the mid-range. The Mystics are really stout there too. They allow the fewest mid-range shots on the season and over the last 7 games. So again, assuming this number comes out somewhat reasonable, I do really like her to go under. And then, hey, if you use the DFS books, take her to go under 19.5 and parlay that with something else on these DFS books. But that's all we got for this video. 2 official plays along with the lean as well. Let's hope to have a good one. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the Dub Club and have a good one.